You have something important to do. You know it's important. You've known it for days. And yet here you are, reorganizing your sock drawer, watching videos about medieval bread, or staring at the ceiling wondering if clouds have feelings. This is procrastination. And it's not what you think it is. Most people believe procrastination is about laziness, a character flaw, a simple failure of willpower. But modern psychology tells a completely different story. Procrastination isn't a time management problem. It's an emotion management problem. Let that sink in. Your brain isn't avoiding the task. It's avoiding the feelings the task produces. Fear, anxiety, self-doubt, boredom, frustration. The moment you think about that important project, your brain lights up with discomfort, and it does what it was designed to do. It runs away. To understand why, we need to go back about 200,000 years. Meet your ancient ancestor. He lived in a world where immediate threats were the only threats that mattered. A lion behind that rock? That's a real problem. The harvest 3 months from now? That can wait. His brain was wired for immediate survival, not long-term planning. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Your brain is still running that same ancient software. Neuroscientists call this the limbic system. It's the emotional, reactive, survival-focused part of your brain. And sitting right in its center is a tiny almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. The amygdala is your brain's alarm system. It scans constantly for threats, and when it spots one, it hijacks your entire decision-making process. Now here's where it gets fascinating. Your amygdala cannot tell the difference between a lion and a deadline. To it, both are threats. Both produce the same chemical cocktail of stress hormones, and both trigger the same ancient response: fight, flight, or freeze. When you freeze in front of your laptop, unable to start that report, that's not weakness. That's your 200,000-year-old brain doing exactly what it was built to do. But your brain doesn't just freeze and leave you staring at the wall. It offers you an escape route, and that escape route feels wonderful. The moment you decide to check social media instead of working, your brain releases dopamine, that warm, rewarding chemical that says, "Good choice, buddy. You avoided the threat. You survived." The problem is, dopamine doesn't care if the reward is actually good for you. It just cares that you felt better right now. This is called the present bias. Your brain values immediate rewards enormously more than future rewards. Studies show that people will choose $10 today over $20 next week. Applied to procrastination, this means feeling comfortable right now beats finishing your thesis next month. Every single time, unless you consciously intervene. And that conscious intervention requires the prefrontal cortex. This is the front part of your brain, the part that thinks about the future, weighs consequences, makes long-term plans. It's essentially the adult in the room. But here's the power struggle at the heart of procrastination. The prefrontal cortex is slow, deliberate, and energy-hungry. The limbic system is fast, automatic, and powerful. When stress levels rise, the limbic system wins, almost every time. Psychologist Piers Steele spent over 10 years studying procrastination. He found that roughly 20% of adults are chronic procrastinators. Not occasional, not situational, chronic. They procrastinate on taxes, on health checkups, on relationships, on their own dreams. And the cruelest part? Chronic procrastination is strongly linked to lower well-being, higher stress, worse health outcomes, and deeper regret later in life. The thing you're avoiding to feel better right now is making you feel worse over time. This creates what researchers call the procrastination doom loop. You have a task, it feels threatening, you avoid it, you feel temporary relief. Then guilt creeps in. The guilt makes the task feel even more threatening, so you avoid it more. The relief gets shorter, the guilt gets heavier, and the task looms larger and larger in your mind until it feels absolutely impossible. Sound familiar? But here's something crucial that most people miss. Not all procrastination looks the same. There are different types, and they come from different places. The first type is perfectionism-driven procrastination. This person isn't lazy. They care deeply, too deeply. They're so afraid of doing the task imperfectly that they'd rather not do it at all. If I never start, I can never fail. It's a protection strategy disguised as delay. The second type is fear of success procrastination. This one is sneaky. Some people unconsciously avoid completing goals because success brings change, and change is threatening. What if I finish this novel and nobody likes it? What if I get the promotion and can't handle it? The third type is task-aversion procrastination. This is the most common. The task is simply unpleasant. It's boring, confusing, or tedious, and the brain sees no compelling reason to suffer now for a reward that feels abstract and distant. Knowing your type matters because the solution changes depending on the root cause. A perfectionist doesn't need a timer. They need permission to be imperfect. A fear of success procrastinator doesn't need better planning. They need to examine what they're really afraid of. So what actually works? Let's talk about the science of getting unstuck. The single most powerful technique backed by research is called implementation intentions. Instead of saying, "I will work on my project," you say, "When it is 9 a.m. and I sit at my desk with coffee, I will open the document and write one sentence." Specific, concrete, tied to a trigger. Studies by psychologist Peter Gollwitzer showed that implementation intentions increase follow-through by up to 300%. Your brain loves a clear script. Give it one. The second technique is making the task emotionally smaller. Remember, your brain is avoiding feelings, not the task itself. So change the feelings. Ask yourself, what is the smallest, least threatening version of this task I could do right now? Not write the whole report. Just open the document, not go to the gym, just put on your shoes. This is sometimes called the 2-minute rule, but the real mechanism is emotional. You're tricking your amygdala into standing down by removing the perceived threat. The third technique is self-compassion. This sounds soft, but the research is hard. A landmark study by Carleton University found that students who forgave themselves for procrastinating on their first exam procrastinated less on their second exam. Self-criticism, it turns out, amplifies the threat signal in your brain. It makes the task scarier. Self-compassion quiets the alarm. It creates the psychological safety your prefrontal cortex needs to function. The fourth technique is changing your environment. Your brain is deeply associative. If your couch is where you watch TV and scroll your phone, your brain will resist working there. It has learned that couch equals comfort and distraction. A new environment sends a new signal. A library, a coffee shop, a different room. Even just clearing your desk can shift your brain into a different mode. The fifth and perhaps most profound technique is reconnecting with meaning. Procrastination thrives in the gap between effort and purpose. When you can't see why something matters, your brain treats it as optional. But when a task connects to something you genuinely care about, the emotional calculus changes. Not, "I have to write this, but this writing is part of the life I'm building." Ask yourself honestly, why does this task matter? Not why should it matter? Why does it actually matter to you? Because here's the deepest truth about procrastination. It is not your enemy. It is a messenger. It is your brain telling you that something about this task feels unsafe, unclear, or disconnected from your values. And instead of punishing yourself for receiving that message, the wiser move is to listen to it. What is the task making you feel? Where is that feeling coming from? Is the task actually important to you, or are you doing it because someone else decided it should be? The most liberated people aren't the ones who never procrastinate. They're the ones who understand their own emotional landscape well enough to navigate it. They know when their amygdala is firing false alarms. They know how to create conditions where their prefrontal cortex can do its job. They know how to be gentle enough with themselves to keep moving forward. You are not broken. You are not lazy. You are a human being with an ancient brain trying to survive in a modern world full of abstract deadlines and invisible futures. The gap between knowing and doing is not a moral failing. It is a neurological challenge, and like all challenges, it can be understood and it can be overcome. So the next time you find yourself reorganizing your sock drawer instead of doing the thing, pause. Take a breath and ask yourself gently, what am I actually afraid of right now? The answer might surprise you, and it might just be the thing that finally gets you moving.